Welcome back to part 2 of our video tutorial where we are creating a drinks flyer for a local hotel. In this second part of the video we're going to start to add in the cocktail to the center of our flyer here. So it's the centerpiece of our document. To do that we're just going to go up to the file menu and click on open. And I want you to open up this Juices picture from G Drive. Okay, it's got some different cocktails that we can use. You can use one of the other ones if you'd like, but I'm going to use this one here on the right hand side. Okay, so what we need to do is use the quick selection tool to select that. Okay, so grabbing the quick selection tool from our toolbox over here. Okay, remember you need to click the plus sign at the top so you are making a selection, and you can use your square brackets to make that selection tool bigger and smaller. I'm just going to press Ctrl plus to zoom in a little bit here so I can see what I'm selecting, and you want to go around and select as much of this cocktail as you can. Don't worry if you go outside the lines a little bit, we'll come back and fix them in a moment. You also want to select the limes sitting next to the cocktail. Okay, so be very careful that you select the limes as best you can. Try not to select too much of that table. Now with the straws at the top, we do want to select them as well, so again zoom in, make your brush really small, and start to go around and select those straws. Okay, try not to select that blue background if you can help it. Now if you do accidentally select that blue background, which has happened just in this big gap between the straws, you will need to deselect that in a moment. Alright, so go around your document and make sure you've got everything selected that you want. Make your brush nice and small and get into those hard to reach places around the limes. This could take a little while. I might pause the video here while I just tidy up those edges. Okay, actually I won't pause it yet. I'll just show you how I'm going to deselect the parts I don't want, and then I'll pause it. Okay, so I've selected pretty much everything I want in my selection. Okay, but I've got a little bit too much selected, like over here. It's gone outside of the lines and selected a bit of the table and a bit of the strawberry. So to deselect that, you need to come up the top and grab your minus brush, or your deselection brush, and just run your mouse over those bits you don't want selected. Okay, you can see I've stuffed up here and it's cut away some of the cocktail, so you'll need to grab your plus brush again, just select that again. So it's a bit of trial and error until you get this right. Okay, so I'm just going to pause the video for a moment while I go around and deselect the bits I don't want, and I'll come back once I've got it looking good. Alright, so I'm back here now, and as you can see I've got my selection looking pretty good over here. I've got pretty tight around all the limes and the cocktails, the straws and whatnot, and I am happy with that selection. Okay, with your selection tool still chosen here, you can go up to select and mask at the top. Now it might be refine edge if you're using an older version of Photoshop. Okay, but it basically does the same thing. You'll have a few levers that you can adjust around over here on the right hand side. So I might give it a 1 pixel feather, which just smooths the edges out a little bit, and if you want you can just play around with some of those other effects. Okay, it should just smooth the edges out for you so you have a nice smooth cut around your selection. Click OK when you're done. Grab your move tool from your toolbox. Okay, I'm just going to show my transform controls at the top there. And all you need to do is pick that up, drag it and drop it over here onto your document. You'll see that that appears on layer number 2. Alrighty, now what I'm going to do while that's still selected is just go to Edit and Transform. I just want to flip that horizontally. Just want it to face the other way. Alrighty. So what we're going to do is make that a little bit bigger now. I'm going to hold Alt and Shift at the same time. And using my Move tool, I'm just going to stretch that out a bit. Okay, so about that size looks alright. And you want to get it in the center of the page. Okay, so use your guides to just position that towards the center. Press the tick at the top when you're done. And you can see now, as you click off it, you've got your cocktail or centerpiece looking pretty sweet. The next thing I'm going to do is just brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to select layer 2 over here. Might even rename that to cocktail. Just going to select that cocktail layer, and in my adjustments panel here I'm going to hit the brightness and contrast. Now if you can't see that adjustments panel, you can go to your window menu and just select adjustments, and that will make it pop up. So click the first option there, the little sun, which is brightness and contrast. Choose this little button here with the square and the arrow coming out of it, so it just applies this effect to the layer below it, which is our cocktail layer. And I want you to turn the brightness up a little bit to around 10 or 11. And I want you to turn the contrast down. Oh, sorry, no, I'm going to turn it up. We'll go around 15 or 16. There we go. And if you hit this little eye on and off, you can see that it just brightens it up a little bit. Okay. So you can hit the arrows up there and just close your properties box there. Alright, so I'm going to select both of those layers over here. Just hold Shift and click on them both. Drag it down the bottom to that folder, group them together, and this time we'll call it Cocktail. Okay, so we've now got a cocktail layer. We're also going to make another folder. So hit this folder down here just on its own, and I want you to call this group folder Main. Okay, and drag the cocktail inside of that main folder. Alright, so now you just got your background and your main folders, and if you open up the main folder, you've got your cocktail inside of it. Alrighty, so that's looking pretty good. Next thing we're going to bring in is some cherries and some strawberries, just to add a bit of colour around the bottom of the cocktail. So to do that, we're going to go up to File, and we're going to go to Place Embedded, and we're going to select the fruits. Okay, they'll just come in, just press the tick at the top, and you've got 4 fruits sitting on your page there that you can pick from. I'm going to grab my lasso tool, which is the third tool down in my toolbox, and all you need to do to use this tool is click and drag. Okay, and the line's going to follow your mouse, and I want you to go very carefully around the strawberry. You don't want to select anything else but the shape or general shape of that strawberry, just outside the lines of it, and it's going to make a selection around that strawberry. Okay, once you've got that selection, press Ctrl J on your keyboard. So Ctrl J will make a copy. Oops, I better click on this layer first, then press Ctrl J. It will make a copy of that selection. So you can see now, if I hide the fruits, we've got a new layer, which is layer 2 here. That's our strawberry. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my fruits layer back up and just go back and select your fruits layer from your layers panel here. And using your lasso tool again, I want you to very carefully go around the cherry this time. Okay, remember not to cut any of it off, and don't select anything else but the general shape of the cherry. Okay, so there you go. Once you've got a shape looking like that, make sure your fruits layer is selected and press Ctrl J again, and that makes a copy of the cherry. So now we've got a copy of the strawberry and a copy of the cherry on their own layers. Right, we can actually hide this fruits layer and keep it hidden for now. Actually, I might even delete it. We don't need it again. So I'll just delete that fruits layer by clicking on it and selecting the trash can at the bottom. Okay, these 2 layers here, if you want to rename them, you can. We've got cherry and strawberry. Just double click on them to rename them. Now we're going to grab our Move tool. Again, make sure Auto Select and Show Transform controls at the top here are both checked. And you can click on these. I'm going to start with the cherry, so I'll just move the strawberry out of the way. The cherry I'm going to highlight. I'm going to make it smaller while holding Shift. Just bring it down towards the bottom of my cocktail glass, somewhere around there. Press the tick at the top once you're happy with it. And then we're going to duplicate this layer by heading over to our Layers panel, right-clicking on the cherry and selecting Duplicate Layer. Click OK when it asks for a name, and then we're going to go to Edit, Transform, and Flip Horizontal. That's going to flip that second cherry the other way like a mirror image. You can just pick it up and move it to the right. It's going to zoom in a bit here so you can see what's going on exactly. Okay, I just want something a bit like that. Alrighty. Next thing I'm going to do is we're going to get the strawberry and just whack it down here in front of those cherries. And again, resize it so it's an appropriate size. Should be similar to those cherries, maybe just a little bit bigger if anything. Okay, just stick it down there, maybe in front of that cherry a little bit. Press the tick at the top when you're done. You probably want something looking like that. Alrighty, I know it looks a little bit fake at the moment, still like it's just been cut out of a magazine. That's fine though, we're going to fix all that up shortly. Alrighty, so that's our fruit looking good. So I'm going to select the strawberry, the cherry copy, and the cherry. So all 3 layers there. Put them in their own folder, so drag them down to that little folder. Give it the name Fruits. And I want you to drag that Fruits folder into your main folder. So now inside the main folder we've got Fruits and we've got Cocktails. Alrighty, moving on to the next step. What we're going to do now is bring in some palm trees. So once you go to File, Place Embedded, and select the palm trees. Press the tick at the top of the page just to place them in. Alright, we're going to do something similar to what we just did with the fruit, and that's to grab the lasso tool. I'm going to start with the left tree here and just cut around it. Okay. Now, when you get towards the sand, I want you to chop that bit off. So I'm going to come straight across and cut the bottom of my tree out. Now, when you come up this inside bit here, you want to cut out that hammock bit. So get as close to that tree trunk as you can. We don't want to show the bit of the hammock if possible. Come around the leaves, back up to the top, and you should have a selection looking just like this. Okay, making sure your palm trees layer is still selected, press Ctrl J to make a copy of that tree. Okay, I'm just going to rename it to left tree. Now selecting the palm trees layer again, I'll grab my lasso tool and do the same for the right tree. Remember, near that hammock, coming close to the tree trunk, and then you can come back out again because we don't want to see that. And again, we're going to cut off the bottom of this tree, so just come across before you reach the sand, cut off the bottom of the tree, work your way around the top, and we should have a selection something like that. Press Ctrl J again, okay, and you'll have your two trees there. So you can delete this original palm trees layer now. Okay, that'll get rid of all the sand and all that other junk, and we've been left with two palm trees that we can move around. So grab your Move tool now, make sure that we've got Auto Select and Show Transform tool selected at the top. Now what I want to do is flip both of these trees around the other way. So just click on them one at a time, go to Edit, Transform, flip them horizontally. Do the same for this other tree, so Edit, Transform, and flip horizontal. Alright, now we're going to just move them down and rotate them and get them into position. So I'm going to make them a bit smaller, give it a bit of a rotate. This is all using the Move tool. I'm going to put it on top of my cocktail glass and fruit at the moment, but don't worry, we're going to push it behind everything in a moment. Probably somewhere about there for that one. I'll press the tick at the top to apply those changes, and then I'll start work on this second one. So I'm going to swing him around, make him a bit smaller so he's in line with the other tree. Probably get him coming out of the two limes there, or somewhere near there. About there looks pretty good, so I'll press the tick. We've got our two palm trees in position. Okay, what I'm going to do with these trees, actually I won't put them behind the glasses yet. I might actually brighten them up. Actually not brighten them up, turn them down a little bit. So I'm going to click on this left tree option here and choose the brightness and contrast adjustment. Sorry if I'm confusing you here, I'm just making changes on the fly. The brightness, let's bump it down a little bit. I'm going to drop it to about minus 25-ish, around there, and bump the contrast up to, let's go to about 50. Okay, and if you turn the visibility on and off, you can see that it's affecting the whole document. So what we need to do is push this little button here, so the square with a little arrow coming out of it. That way it just affects the palm tree on the left. Okay, so now if you turn that on and off, you can see this palm tree here. It's getting a little bit darker. Okay, it's not quite as washed out. I want you to do the same for the other tree. Okay, that's this one here. It's called layer 2 at the moment. I better call that right tree, so we know what it is. So click on the right tree layer, adjust your brightness and contrast again. Brightness goes down to about minus 25, contrast up to about 50-ish. And remember to click this little square at the bottom of the arrow coming out of it, just so it applies to this palm tree only. You can hit the visibility button here to see how that effect looks. Alright, close that properties box up, and that's looking a little bit better. Alright, so let's highlight those four layers, the two brightness and contrast layers, as well as the left and right tree. Go and put them in their own folder by dragging them down to that folder at the bottom. Change the group 1 name to trees. And I want you to put that into your main folder here, beneath the fruit and the cocktails. Okay, that's accidentally gone into the cocktails folder. So I'll put it in main first and bring it down. There we go. And you can see now, because we've put the trees layer behind the cocktail and the fruits, the trees now go behind the cocktail and the fruits. So it looks a little bit better than when they were on top of it all. Right. So that's our trees done. Okay. Next thing we might throw in is some little birds flying around, just in amongst the trees and the drink here. So we'll go to File and Place Embedded again. And this time we're looking for the birds. Press the tick at the top to just apply those changes, and we're going to do just like we've done before, using the lasso tool to cut out certain birds. So let's draw a circle around the first bird. Make sure our birds layer is selected and just press Ctrl J. Okay, that puts our first bird in. You can see that if I hide the original layer, this new bird layer is just sitting there. Alright, let's highlight the second bird. Just draw a box around him. Click back on the birds layer and press Ctrl J. Now I might go down and select this second last guy just here. Click back on the birds layer and then press Ctrl J. Okay, so you can see we've got 3 bird layers sitting in here now. We might do one more. I might just grab this last one over here. So draw a box around that last bird. Click on the birds layer. Press Ctrl J to make a copy of it. Okay, now I can delete this original birds layer here. So click on the birds layer and just trash it. And now you've got these 4 layers here. Layer 2, 3, 4, 5 that have birds on them. So it's just a matter of picking up your mouse, selecting the birds, and moving them around. Okay, so we might move this fella just down into this gap. This little guy here can come down here. Now feel free to rotate these a little bit, resize them if you think they're a bit too big. Okay, they're a little bit big, so I might give them a bit of a touch up. There you go. Looking good. We might bring this guy down under this palm tree here, resize him. And then this last guy can probably just sit up above this tree. Again, resize. Rotate if you need. You can even use your arrow keys just to nudge it around if you'd like. Press the tick at the top just to apply any changes, and you should now have 4 little birds flying amongst the fruit and the trees. You can highlight those layers, and what I want you to do is just drag it down to their own folder. Instead of group 1, give it the name birds. Okay, and we're just going to move that birds folder into the main folder. Alrighty, we're going alright here. We might put in some water splashes now around the base of the cocktail here. Alright, so to bring those water splashes in, we're going to go to File and Place Embedded. You'll see we've got the water splash here. Just press the tick to apply that change. And I want you to change the blend mode of that water splash from normal. And I want you to change it to screen. It's about halfway down there. Okay, and you can see that that's already starting to blend in with the background a lot nicer. Still a bit of a white box around it though, which we'll get rid of shortly. What we're going to do is go up to the Image menu next and go to Adjustments and then Levels. And to help get rid of this white area around the box, just change the first option here from 0 to 95. You can see that the white's starting to disappear now around those splashes. So click on OK. And what we're going to do is we're going to hide this main folder for a moment over here. So in your Layers panel, click on the main option, hit the little eyeball next to it just to get rid of it for a sec so we can just see the splash. Okay, we just want to work with this splash for the minute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a layer mask so we can start to rub out some of this water splash. Okay, we've got a little bit too much of it. So down the bottom, while you've got water splash selected, hit this little square with a circle inside of it, and it adds a layer mask, this empty box here next to the water splash. Alright, what we're going to do next is make sure that our foreground color over here is set to black, and with our brush tool, you want to make sure you've got a nice soft brush. Change the size a bit so it's not too big. Use your square brackets to make it the right size. And what I want you to do is just go around and start rubbing out some of those edges. Okay, they're a little bit too sharp. Okay, any bright green bits, rub them out as well. You can see the opacity up here is 50%. If I just turn that up to 100%, that'll rub out everything. I don't know why that opacity was set to 50, but make sure your opacity is set to 100% there. Okay, and we're just rubbing around, getting rid of any sharp edges, some of those little splashes off to the side, and we'll probably be left with something that looks a bit like that. Okay, I might get rid of a few other little bits I just noticed out to the side there. Try that again. There we go. So that looks a bit better. Alrighty, so that's smoothed out our splash. What we're going to do is bring back our main folder now. So hit the little square where the eyeball was. That'll bring back the main elements. And we're going to rotate the splash, make it a bit smaller, and position it at the bottom of the glass. So use your move tool, select this water splash, move it down, hold shift and drag from a corner to make it a bit smaller. Give it a bit of a rotate if you want. I'm going to position it somewhere down the bottom like so. So you've got some water splashing out off the glass. Now don't worry if it's going over the top of the fruit at the moment. We're going to fix that up shortly. I might even rotate it the other way. Yeah, something like that's starting to look a bit better. So you can press the tick at the top of the page. Now if you still want to rub out some little bits, you zoom in down here a bit, you can click back on this layer mask. So that's this second white box in the water splash layer. Grab your brush tool again and make sure you've got black selected as your color, because black will hide things or rub out things, and you can just start going around, just tidying it up a bit, making sure that you haven't got too much covering up the birds and whatnot. Alrighty, so that's looking pretty decent. Alright, what we're going to do next is we're going to do another splash. Okay, so I'm going to go up to File, Place Embedded. I'm going to chuck in another water splash. Alright, we're going to do something very similar to what we did before, except we're going to get some splashing out to the left hand side this time. Okay, so let's just quickly change that to a screen blend mode. And oops, press the tick at the top. Just going to hide the original water splash in the main layer there so we can see this, and we're just going to go to Image, Adjustments and Levels, change the first level to 95 again. Alright, that gets rid of most of the white from behind the splash. We'll make another layer mask, so hit this option here. And we're going to grab our brush tool again with black selected, and rub out those green parts. I might rotate this again with our move tool just a bit, because we want it to come out the other way this time, so I might use this section over here. Okay, so using your brush, again, click on the layer mask option and just start rubbing out bits on the right hand side now. Okay, we don't really want them. We want this splash to come out the left hand side. Any stray little bits, you can rub them out, we don't really need them. That's looking pretty good. Make it a bit smaller, give it a rotate. We can show these other two layers now. And we can bring this splash up onto our glass. So it's splashing out to the right hand side, to the left hand side. Just rotate as you need. Whoops. Resize it if you need to. Rub out some more using the layer mask tool if you want. But you should be getting a bit of a splash out to the right hand side now, left hand side now. I'm just going to grab my brush and touch up a little bit down below there. A little bit on the bird. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Alrighty, what we're going to do next is we might do one more. We might do one more splash just to really get it looking. So let's bring in this splash one last time. So File, Place Embedded, bring in the water splash. Just press the tick for a moment. I'm going to highlight. I'm just going to actually tidy up these layers a bit. I'm going to hide the two water splashes in the main for a moment, and the new water splash layer that's in. Change the blend mode to screen. Head up to Image, Adjustments and Levels. Make the first box 95 one more time. Press OK. Make a layer mask, so this square at the bottom with the circle inside of it, with your brush and the black selected. Rub out the greener parts. You don't want them. Now this splash can be a bit bigger, I reckon, so let's give it a bit of a rotate. See if we can get this looking good on our main section. So bring back the main items. Don't worry about the other water splashes for the time being. Okay, let's get this splash going on in here. Say okay if any warning boxes come up. Give it a bit of a rotate. And now with your brush tool, click back on this layer mask, so this second white box here, and just start rubbing out all the bits you don't need. So anything below the cocktail glass we don't really want splashed around. You can rub out some of this stuff through the middle of the cocktail glass. We want to be able to see what's inside of it, so don't worry too much about that. We want to be able to see our fruit, so you can get rid of the splashes going all over that. Alrighty, so that's looking alright. We'll bring back our other splashes one by one just to make sure that they're looking alright. It's probably a bit chaotic just through this section over here. So you could click back on one of these other water splashes and just drop the opacity a little bit. That might fix it up, so I'm just dropping to about 60%. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Those water splashes aren't too bad. Okay, hopefully yours look pretty decent. Just make sure you rub out any bits that you don't want in there. But if you've got something looking like that, I'd be pretty happy. Okay, so now with these water splash layers, you can highlight all three of them, make a group for them, a new folder, and just call it splashes. And that's going to go inside of our main folder as well, beneath the birds. Okay, that way our birds are still above the splashes. Alrighty, so that's looking pretty good. I might stop the video here because I've been babbling on for a little while. We'll come back in the final video and get this thing finished. So we've got a little bit of text to add still, a couple of lens flares and whatnot, but we are getting pretty close now to finishing off. So I'll catch you in the final video in a moment.